Hi folks. A couple of people have asked me a couple of times if I wouldn't like to maybe make an instructional video about how I create my leather feathers. Well, I was kind of trying to sneak out there, but finally decided to do it. So where do we start? It's about creating a leather feather for out of a piece of leather, to have the feathers stand out from the leathers. I mean, it's gonna be sculpted then for items like bracelets, for example, just like this here. Hope you can see this. So to make it look as if the feather was just lying on there, and this is all made of one piece of leather, and I'm going to show you how I start on such a leather feather, and also what kind of tools I'm using for that, and of course what leather I use. I personally prefer to use vegetal tanned sheepskin, which I got here. It has kind of a rubberish surface, so it's and it's also kind of, you see, it really bends easily. It's kind of flexible. But what I like with that quality of leather, or with that type of leather, is that it sculpts really well. Your leather should not be thinner than like 5 ounces, I'd say 5 to 6 ounces, or what's over that, or what's above that should be fine. So the tools I'm using is a stylus. I made this myself, and I ground it so it has a really small tip. I can show you the difference. If you have a normal stylus, the difference in the impression that creates the stylus with a really narrow tip. This is the one with a narrow tip, and this is the smallest, of the small side of a normal stylus. And I think you can tell the difference. Yeah, it's a lot smaller, and I really like that. So my leather is damp. I think it's kind of the right moisture. We'll see. I start with a quill, and I just draw it freehand. You know, I don't make a pattern for these anymore. And you know, you can decide if you want to have a straight quill or a bent one. It depends on what kind of feather you want to depict. So I start out with one bent line and put a second one right underneath. You should, you know, it is of real great help if you study a natural feather, so you will know how it looks like, and also the quill. It gets thinner to the end. There we go. This is what I need the stylus for. And the other tool I'm using is a modeling spoon, and I have modified it a little bit. I have ground the edges here and on this side too, so you just get a kind of a sharp edge, so you get a deeper impression if you're using that. And the other tool, which is one of the most important tools, of course, is a scalpel. I'm using a 3, and you should make sure that your scalpel blade is really sharp. I mean, they're always sharp anyways, but they need to be really sharp if you're doing this kind of work. Okay, so let's start out. I've already drawn the quill here, and then I start with the feather, just a natural shape. This would be a feather of a right wing, and I just draw. I hope you can see that. I'm just using my stylus here to draw the outlines. Gets a bit narrow further you reach to the end of it. On this side, the outer side is always of the vein is always smaller on a feather than the inside. Okay. There we go. It still looks like more like a leaf at the moment, but you'll see. So lengthen this a little bit here. Also on this side. There's nothing cut yet, and I do the same here with the quill, with pressure. I think leather's already getting a little bit dry, so to make it stand out. Hope you're not just seeing my hand there. Well, this is my first instructional video, so be kind on me. So you got a nice quill here in the middle. And the reason why I'm using, I'm not just cutting the lines, the leading edges of the feather with a swivel knife or something, is because I need to want to undercut it with a scalpel later on. I need a separation line to the rest of the leather, because otherwise it would be too risky. It would be too risky to cut the rest of the leather with a scalpel. Okay, just like this. Next step, what I'm doing is either using a hair blade to create the barbs, or you can as well use your scalpel for it. Lately I prefer to use the hair blade since it doesn't cut that deep. And always if you have studied the real natural feather, you should know how to work with your tool. Sorry. To create the barbs. You know, they're not straight. They're all like going down to the tip. You know, pointing down to the tip. So I'm going to start here. And it does not matter. You know, you can just go over that that edge line here. That's not a problem, because you're going to background this thing later on anyways. So if it leaves marks on here, doesn't matter. We take care of that later. So with a minimum amount of tools, you can create really nice stuff here. It would be nice if you the hair blade would be a little bit sharper, but I think, and the leather is still a little bit wet, too wet. So you can do them, or should do these curved. Okay, so everything done. It still kind of looks like a leaf, but I'm going to take care of that pretty soon. Yeah, this is it's a little bit too wet, but now it's getting better. It's just to separate the rest of the leather from the object we want to create here. So let the fun begin here. It is important, as I already said, that your scalpel blade is really sharp for these things, and you should really watch out on the angle you're using it. I suggest to use a really flat angle if you don't want to cut the feather out of that leather. If you wanted to cut it out, it would not matter too much, you know, for maybe for a hair barrette. But on such a subject, when it just has to stand out and be still connected to the rest of the leather, you really watch out. When doing this the first time, you might break the blade, you know, because it really bends. You really need to bend it, and also just using the tip of the blade. Careful not to cut into the other leather. Even if you're probably going to use a backgrounder on that one later on, it's still better if there's no injury on it. So one side is slightly cut, and you can see because I used the hair blade before, and you know, it did not just stop at the line here. You can see these the barbs are not right close together here, just as you normally get it on a natural feather, you know, which you just find when you're out somewhere in nature. So we're gonna cut the other side, a really flat angle, and you don't need to cut all the way deep right from the beginning, because we're going to do a second cut anyways. Depends on how much you want the feather to stand out there. I tend to cut right to the quill there, but as I said, not in the first step. Okay, be really careful up here. Okay. So now you can already see, you can already tell it stands out quite well. You know, it's cut approximately to the middle, you know, so I can still cut a little bit deeper, really flat angle, don't forget. And you can also see your blade going underneath this here. So you can kind of tell how deep you have to cut. Even more, and also here, flat angle, and just using, and it cuts through there real easily. If you're just, you know, if you're just doing it on a piece of leather like this, it's okay if you cut through there. If you want to make a bracelet or whatever, you want to line it maybe anyways, like I did it with this one here. I'm working on this one at the moment and have already cut the cut off the feathers, and also cut the, you know, the separations of the barbs here. And this was is for a bracelet I just prepared before, and it was already lined before. So if you do that, you really make sure that you're not cutting through. Otherwise, you know, you have another piece of scrap or garbage or whatever. So what happened here? I don't know if you can tell. I can tell. I cut through the leather. You know, I cut too deep. That would not be a problem afterwards. As I said, if you line it, this will disappear. No problem at all. This is a demonstration thing, you know, as always. Okay, now you got that feather cut loose already, and you start with the fluffy part, I think it's called the after feathers or whatever, and you make sure that you follow the direction of the barbs and cut along these. And for the fluffy part here, you need to create really small barbs, small separations. And I think it's personal preference how far down you want to cut these fine ones. I hope you can see this. Already cut them loose, and later on when we will start sculpting it, that would make it look really natural. Cut another one off, and also be careful not to cut too deep. That one. Okay. And also here. And they're not really symmetrical, so you might start further up here for one side and further down below for the other side. When you're doing this the first time, it really makes sense to try to get a hold of a natural feather, to get an idea for the shape. Should be really thin. Okay, and now we're doing some more separations of the barbs. say, for example, like here, and always follow the direction here. Okay, there we go. It's not all cut loose yet. Really careful and without any pressure, since you're having a really sharp device here. You can round up the edges a little bit here. And you don't need to cut another separation here. You can if you want to, but you don't need to, since when we model it later on, you can create that space between it. Okay, do another one here. It's not going quite. That is a difficult part in using this leather because it's so kind of a rubberish quality. Sometimes it doesn't cut that nicely. Okay, there we have this, and create another one here. Cut it a little bit more open, that's okay. Try to fumble this piece out, did I? Okay. Oh, come on. Okay. Get this out here. Okay, another one down here. You don't necessarily need to cut it all up to the end here. You can also leave a little tiny piece attached, so it would kind of like still be connected to the leather. Okay, and the other side now. Okay, well, so another one here. Is it all loose? Yes. And one here. Actually, I figured I'd just cut it a little bit too deep, but well, you get the idea. And another one here. Do a little bit curvy line, just like I cut it with the hair blade, and another one here, and that shall do it then. Okay, so hope you can see from the side and from the top now. I'm not behind the camera, so you tell me, guys. And since you have done that, you can either, if you decide to background it, you can either do it right there without having it sculpted yet. You know, you just lift it up a little bit, and then with your background or whatever you want to use for it. There are a couple of nice backgrounders. I preferred the Pebbles tool, actually. But well, okay, and what we want to do now is, because we want, you know, if that feather is supposed to be on a bracelet or a hair barrette, it really needs to be to get a treatment that makes it after drying out, it makes it rock hard, you know, because it will be touched and bend and all that, and you want it to keep the shape. Yeah. So what I'm actually using for this is back coat. This is a neat thing to have. You might want to use I don't know, maybe like super sheen or acrylic Vaseline, or I mean, this is also personal preference, but I really get along well with the back coat. and it leaves the feather rock hard. So I decided this time, I mean, what you can still do, you can still do the end of the quill here. You can also cut that loose just a little bit in the middle and leave it attached at the end, and maybe here at the first part. I didn't do this right now. So you can, you know, use a lot of that. I use a soft brush for it with a narrow tip, and I don't usually just soak the front of the feather. Make sure not to hit the background with it if you decide to later on want to dye it. It's always better to keep the back coat just here on the feather. And okay, so front side is done. Now I'm going to do the back sides too. Okay, one side and the other side. Oh well, I failed because I cut through it. That happens. But you get the idea. It's that don't try at home thingy, you know. Don't cut it all out. But as I said, it's my first instructional video, and I don't know how it will come out. And so, since we have soaked it, now we can start. Put this away. Now we can start by using a stylus and our either our scalpel or maybe two styluses. I tend to also use my fingers when shaping the feathers. Making the after feathers here really fluffy. You know, you can as well just kind of have it line over it a little bit. You know, just like I said, the feathers in nature, they're not really tidy. You know, they're rather untidy. Just reach underneath and use your fingers, or even a second stylus or whatever tool you might prefer. Whatever suits you best. It's a, you know, trial and error. So, here, you can as well, you know, take the tips here. Hope you can see this. And bend them back a little bit. And twist them. Bend them, and twist them. Like here too. You can, you know, as I said, you can use whatever tool you want for it. You'll find out what is the most comfortable for you to sculpt it and give it its final form. Okay, lift this up a little bit. And it takes, for the back coat, it takes a while to dry out, which gives you enough time to correct here and there if you decide, okay, I want this part of the feather shaped differently or more standing out. This is all, it's all your choice. So we are pretty much done here. But I think you get the idea. There we go. It doesn't look like a leaf anymore. It stands out nicely. And if you look from the side, it's just as if it was lying on there. You know, somebody had just put it on there, and you can just blow it away. And I can show you on this already finished bracelet. I'm not. I hope you can hear this. You know, it is really, really raw.